Hello, and welcome to the MMA Mic Drop Podcast. My name is Jade Bunky, and today's episode, I'm going to break down everything that's about to go down at UFC Houston, Strickland versus Hernandez. This is a good fight card. It features a former champ versus a surging contender. It features 3 undefeated fighters, and this card has a little bit of depth to it as well. The only drawback is probably the co-main event. It's really not worthy of a co-main event. But with that said, I would give this fight card a B. There are a lot of interesting matchups on this entire card. So let's get right into it. I'm going to provide picks and predictions for every single fight. So starting at the top, the main event, Sean Strickland versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who, by the way, has one of the best nicknames on the entire UFC roster. Sean Strickland, he is the former champ. He is 29-7. Fluffy Hernandez is 15-2, and I said he is on a red-hot winning streak. It is a 8-fight win streak at this point, and it's been against increasingly better competition, and he's looked better at every turn. And what's interesting to me are the odds. The odds, Anthony Hernandez is a minus 278 favorite. Sean Strickland is a plus 245 underdog. I think the line is absolutely insane. I think this should be a pick'em. Yes, Fluffy Hernandez is on a 8-fight win streak, and Sean Strickland has lost 2 of 3, but those 2 losses have been to Dricus du Plessis in title fights. So let's break down this fight entirely. What do we think is going to happen here? It is an intriguing matchup, right? You have 2 different styles, and you have 2 different styles that fight at a similar pace. They both move forward. They both pressure their opponents. But Anthony Hernandez is more of a grappler. In fact, he's an exceptional grappler, and he likes to wear his opposition down. Consider him to be the Marab of the middleweight division. He is absolutely relentless. And like I said, he is an exceptional grappler. In his last 4 wins, they're against really good competition in particular. His last fight was against Roman Dolidze. Now, I think Roman Dolidze he's fallen a bit because of his age. But what he did was so impressive. He absolutely manhandled him, and nobody else has done that to Roman Dolidze in the UFC. You look at Brendan Allen, you look at Michel Pereira, and he's been able to neutralize everybody against whom he's competed. And let me give a little context to why I use the word neutralize, because it speaks to his one weakness. He is not a great athlete. And most of the people against whom he's competed have had higher levels of athleticism. But what he's been able to do is he's been able to weather the storm. That's how he neutralizes his weakness. He has incredible toughness. He has high fight IQ. He has relentless pressure. And a better athlete will have moments. Michel Pereira did have moments against him. Brendan Allen did have moments against him, but he's always able to weather the storm. And this is what makes this fight so fascinating, is it's his nonstop pressure and his ability to weather the storm mixed with exceptional grappling. And he's not bad on the feet either. It's just not his core strength. Now, when we look at Sean Strickland, he likes to move forward. He likes to pressure, but he does it in a little bit of a different way. He's a little more methodical. He's constantly moving forward. He likes to lead with his jab. He's a very good striker. He's a good grappler as well. You don't see that much because he tends to prefer to stay on the feet and throw down. And this is a clash of styles to an extent. It's a clash of styles where one's going to look to grapple, the other is going to look to strike, but they're both going to look to pressure each other. So what's going to happen? I don't know. This is what makes this so interesting. Sean Strickland is 34 years old. And he is at that age where athletes start to decline just a bit. And a small decline can portend trouble at the highest level of the fight game. And what I personally think is going to happen, I think Fluffy is going to get him onto the ground in pretty much every round. Maybe not one round, but in at least 4 of the 5 rounds. And he's going to control him for most of the round. I don't think this is going to be an aesthetically pleasing fight, but it's going to be a fascinating fight because we're going to be curious to see how this unfolds. And in a 5-round fight, I think this fight, even though Strickland has incredible cardio, I think this fight favors Anthony Hernandez. I think any 5-round fight at middleweight favors Anthony Hernandez, and I think Anthony Hernandez is going to wear him down, and I think he's going to lock in a sub in the 5th round. Give me Anthony Fluffy Hernandez by submission. All right, next up, we have Geoff Neal versus Uros Medic. Now, this is a curious co-main event because Geoff Neal, okay, he's in the co-main event, makes sense. Uros Medic, he kind of has the feel of a busted prospect. He's won a couple fights in a row, but he came into the UFC undefeated. He has 3 losses in the UFC, and yes, he has won, a handful of fights. And when he does so impressively, right? He is a finisher. He has a 100% finish rate. He is 12-3. So yes, all of his 12 wins have come by finish, but also his 3 losses have come by finish, and they haven't been to the best competition. And this is what's curious about this. Now, Geoff Neal, he's a boxer. He likes to move forward. He likes to apply pressure. He is pretty measured in his approach. He has probably the nastiest uppercut in the UFC, probably him and Justin Gaethje. We saw what he did to Luque, where, he caused a brain bleed. It was absolutely brutal. Now, he's 35 years old. He's lost 3 of his last 4. But there's a big caveat there. He's lost to the best of the best in the UFC welterweight division. He's lost to Ian Gary, Shavkat, and then Carlos Prates. Now, the last fight, Carlos Prates, was a bit concerning because he got knocked out cold. And that happened in the 1st round. And so you have to ask yourself, at age 35, has he fallen off? Has he slowed a bit? Or is Carlos Prates just that good? And it's probably a combination of both. I think Geoff Neal is declining. But is he declining to the extent that would allow somebody like Uros Medic to finish him? Maybe. It is possible. Medic, is a finisher, so he's going to be dangerous, but he's not nearly on the same level as Geoff Neal. Neal is a perennial top 15 ranked, top 10 ranked fighter. And I believe he's at number 9 right now. And I look at the odds. Neal's at minus 198. Medic is a plus 165. I think that is appropriate. This is a tricky fight because it could go in a variety of different ways. And if you're filling out your lineup on DraftKings, might not be a bad pass at, to take Medic, as an underdog. With that said, I'm going to take Geoff Neal. I think he's just still the better fighter. I think he'll be in danger throughout the entire fight, but I think he is going to get a 3rd round TKO. So Geoff Neal, 3rd round TKO. All right, next up is the featured bout. It features Dan 50K Ige versus Melquizael Costa. This is an exceptional fight. I am so fascinated by this fight. Melquizael Costa is on a crazy streak. Well, maybe not as crazy as Anthony Hernandez's streak, but he has won 5 in a row. He looks like he's getting better. He's still only, I believe, 27, 28 years old. He looks like he is constantly improving, and he has taken on a steady vet. Now, Dan Ige, we know what we're going to get from him. He's a boxer. He likes to, throw short combos, get in the inside. He has some significant power, and we know he's game for anything. We saw him take on Diego Lopez on short notice. On not only short notice, on hours notice, like 4 hours earlier. He was at home, and then he was in the arena fighting. Dan Ige is as legit as it gets, but I think he's starting to slow down. He is 34 years old, and he's coming off a loss to Pitbull, which, Pitbull's like 37, 38 years old, and I don't think that would have happened a few years ago. Well, let me backtrack. Okay, if Dan Ige, a younger Dan Ige, would beat an older Pitbull, but a younger Dan Ige would not have been able to beat a younger Pitbull, if that makes any sense. But nonetheless, this is a fascinating fight. This is a really good opportunity for Melquizael Costa to really get into the rankings, to really show he is there. He is a legitimate top 15 guy, and I think he is. He's an incredibly fluid striker. He blends punches and kicks effortlessly. He throws good volume. He is really fun to watch. And I think this is going to represent a changing of the guard. Costa is a minus 198 favorite. Dan Ige plus 198 underdog. That does surprise me a little bit. I figured Ige might be the favorite, so I'm a little surprised. But I think I think Melky's going to get it. I think Melky, I think he's going to win in a decision. I think Ige might have a couple moments, but I think it will be a true changing of the guard. Give me Costa by decision. All right, before that, we are getting Serghei Spivac versus Ante Delija. Delija is the minus 125 underdog. Spivac plus 140. This line surprises me as well. Delia's 1-1 in the UFC, hasn't looked great. His one win is against a 40-year-old Pereira, which, if that was like 5 years ago, that would have been impressive. Can't put any weight to it. But speaking of weight, he is a big dude. He's going to come in probably right at the heavyweight limit. He's a pretty well-rounded fighter. Spivac is, pretty good size as well. Spivac, I think, is a little underrated. He is a really good grappler, and for him, it's all about control. He's very slow. He is not a good athlete, but once he gets his hands on you, and once he gets his hands on you on the ground, it's hard to break free from this guy. And I'm really surprised with these odds. I'm favoring Spivac, and in fact, I think Spivac is going to submit him. Give me Spivac by third round submission. Before that, Michel Pereira versus Zach Reese. Pereira is the minus 148 favorite. Zach Reese is a plus 124 underdog. If this fight was made 2 years ago, this would have been fascinating. You would have had the undefeated Zachary Reese versus the surging Michel Pereira. He was on an unbelievable win streak. He looked unstoppable. And then he came up against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And yes, he did have some moments early on in that fight, but what happened in the fight after is what was really telling. It was against Abus Magomedov, and he wasn't fighting. He wasn't throwing any volume. It looked like he accepted defeat. And then what was more concerning after that was his loss to Kyle Doctus. He got put out by Kyle Doctus, who is a grappler. So the question is, has Michel Pereira completely fallen off, or was he never that good to begin with? I don't know. He was a freak athlete. I think he still is a freak athlete, and that athleticism has, brought him pretty far, but you got to question his decision making. And then we look at Zachary Reese. He was this hot prospect. He's lost 2 in the UFC, and then he has a no contest, but it's still hard to tell how good he is. He has some wins in the UFC. His 2 losses, look, a loss against Cody Brundage does not look good, but it was a slam. He locked in something tight on Brundage. Brundage stood up, which is usually what you don't do, and when he slammed him, his head hit the mat, and he was out. So, it was a bit of a fluke. His knockout loss to, was it to Amazat, if I remember correctly, was, there's no fluke there. That was just a knockout. So we have 2 fighters that we don't know how good they are right now. And it's a little tricky. So like I said, Michel Pereira, crazy athlete. He'll come out, he'll do crazy stuff. He'll do backflips. He is entertaining when he's fighting. And that's been a problem of late. Zach Reese, he's a big guy. He's he's big for the weight division. For the division, I think he's like 6'5". He's got a pretty crazy frame. He's got good power, and this is dependent upon what Michel Pereira shows up. If it's the Michel Pereira of old, I think he can style on Zachary Reese, but I don't know what we're going to get, and I don't know where Michel Pereira's mindset is, and do not bet on this one based on what I'm saying, because I'm really torn. I don't know, but give me Zachary Reese by second round TKO in a fight that of which I have zero confidence. All right, Osbourne versus Alibi Idiris. Idiris. I'm sorry, I can't. So Idiris is the minus 148 favorite. Osbourne a plus 125 underdog. I think that's right. Idiris is an interesting prospect, so it'll be interesting to see how well he does. Osbourne, he's good. He's not great. He's not bad. But I think he is an above average fighter in the UFC. We saw, him, what he did to Steve Ercek in a loss. And I thought that was pretty telling, because it shows, he can cause trouble for some of the top guys in the division. And I think he's going to get it done. Give me Osbourne by decision, and we'll move through these next ones pretty quickly. Let's see. Alden Coria versus Luis Gurule. Coria is a minus 285. Gurule a plus 230. I think that's about right, and I think Alden Coria is actually going to finish him. I believe he's training with Joshua Van right now. And, he is a decent striker, and I think he's going to finish him by third round TKO. This one is interesting. It's Jacobe Smith versus Josiah Harrell. I mean, these are two undefeated fighters. This is Harrell's debut in the UFC. Both of these guys look pretty good. Jacobe Smith, he's 2-0 in the UFC. I mean, and they are quick finishes. Neither of whom has fought great competition yet, but Smith has fought UFC level competition, and he's 2-0 there. And I am going to lean for the guy with UFC experience. Give me Jacobe Smith by a fun and entertaining decision. And Smith is a minus 345 favorite. Harrell a plus 250. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be back and forth. But again, MMA, anything can happen. Before that, we are going to get Carlos Leal versus Chidi Njokuani. Leal is a minus 130 favorite. Chidi is plus 110 underdog. Interesting fight. Chidi is 37 years old. He is starting to slow down a little more. He is starting to throw a little less volume. He is a great Muay Thai practitioner. He has really good clinch work, and he has some crazy knees and, has some pretty nasty elbows. I mean, we saw what he did to Gregory Rodriguez. If Gregory Rodriguez did not finish him, I mean, that fight would have been stopped due to it would have been a doctor's stoppage. It was that injury was so I don't even I can't even think of the right adjective with which to describe it. It was crazy. Let me just tell you that. And I don't know how many stitches that actually ended up needing. But this is interesting. I think Leal was a little overrated based on his performance against Renat, because even though he lost, many people thought he won, but it was a better showing against a really good fighter than what people expected. And, we saw what happened in his last fight. He got knocked out by a 40-year-old Muslim Solikov. And yeah, Solikov is having this late career surge, but you still got knocked out by a 40-year-old. And Chidi Njokuani can hit just as hard. His shots are going to be a little closer in range. And I don't think he's going to finish him, though. What I think is going to happen, I think Chidi's going to have some success early. I think Carlos Leal might turn it on in the late round. Chidi has terrible cardio, so it is a problem if he finishes, if Chidi doesn't get the early finish. But I think this is going to be a very close fight. I think Chidi's going to win the first 2 rounds. Leal is going to win the last round in a dominant fashion, probably 10-8 fashion, and based on fatigue. So this will be a draw. All right, and I think this is the first draw I've ever predicted. All right, let's see. Before that, we are going to get Nora Cornolle versus Joselyne Edwards. Cornolle plus 260, Edwards minus 325. I think this line is a little wide. Cornolle has beat Edwards before, but Edwards is a lot better now. And I do think Edwards is going to win. Nora she's older. I think she's like 36. I think Joselyne Edwards is right around 30, and she is starting to get a lot better. And I think it's going to be Edwards by decision. All right, we have another undefeated prospect. It is Yadir de Valle versus Jordan Levitt. Valle minus 375 favorite against Levitt at plus 295. Now, Yadir is 2-0 in the UFC, but he hasn't fought anybody good. Now, his last fight was against somebody good, but that somebody threw the fight. We all know that, and so we don't really have a good read to how good he is at the UFC level. And we do have a good read on Levitt. Levitt, he is a grappler. And this guy is incredibly flexible, can throw up subs from anywhere, but cannot strike at all. Yes, he's improved his striking, but he still sucks at it. And he does have some wins in the UFC. His only 2 losses are against Chase Hooper and Paddy Pimblett. I think he's like 4-2 in the UFC. I'm not going to check, but I think he has a few wins, but not against the best competition. With that said, I think Yadir is still going to put it on him. I think he's going to finish him. Give me Yadir by second round TKO. All right, Before that, we are going to get another prospects. JPL versus Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe plus 170 underdog versus the minus 205 favorite, which is a little surprising for somebody debuting in the UFC with a little bit of hype, but not a ton of hype. I mean, Phil Rowe is a solid vet. I figured this line would be a little bit closer, but I do think JPL is going to win. Give me JPL by third round TKO. All right. Before that, we're going to get Carly Judas versus Juliana Miller. This is a bit of a mismatch. I think Carly's going to run downhill on Miller. I don't think she's going to get the finish though, and that's why I think this line is a bit wide. I mean, it's very wide. Judas is at a -675. I think that's a bit crazy. Miller at plus 490. Give me Judas by decision. All right, let me just make sure I'm not... Okay, opening the card. And this is a fun fight to open in the card. Ramiz Brahima versus Soriano. Soriano plus 110 underdog. Brahima minus 130 favorite. I think this line is about right. It should be close. Soriano has good power. He can put you out. He's just... I mean, he's not that high level. He has some very questionable losses in the UFC so far. And, you know, so does Brahima, but Brahima is looked better and better, and he is an incredible submission artist. And I think once this fight gets in the ground, it's going to be over. Give me Brahima by second round sub. That's all I have. A really fun fight card. Really excited to see. Let me know who you think is going to win the main event. This is about as interesting as it gets for a main event at 185. Like, subscribe, and thank you so much.